I got my focus on passion and empathy, gaining perspectives, investing, I do believe money and grinding go hand in hand, you will see. I'm working smart, expending my energy, hope that you feeling me. I'm acting differently, you got a friend in me. I'm working hard to try and work smart, no time to complain, it's time to start, we gotta work. Future millionaires.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Future Millionaires. Today we have on Chris Delgado, who worked his way up the corporate ladder at a very young age. He then went on to start successful businesses in consulting and marketing, and he has networked with some extremely high-level individuals, guys. But most of all, my man Chris is a giver. Without further ado, Chris, how you doing today?
Good, brother. Good, man. Thanks for having me on. Super excited.
Me as well, Chris. So let's jump straight into it. And I'd love it if you could just give us a 60-second snippet of what you're up to right now and where you're at.
Yeah. So, I'm partnered in over 7 different companies. I consult on either marketing, sales, or corporate infrastructure. We'll talk more about that later on the podcast, but a lot of that came from working at In-N-Out Burger, being customer-centric, starting from the ground, which has kind of brought, a new perspective and new light into all these companies that I consult for.
That's what's up. So I would love to, if you would share with our listeners, because we'll dive into all that throughout the podcast, but just share with them a little bit about your upbringing, and then too, when entrepreneurship was introduced to you in your life.
Yeah, so I grew up in a very, very small town in California called Victorville. It's literally the desert. Grew up in the beginning, grew up, very, very poor. And then as, junior high and high school, more in the middle class. But never, my parents never made over $100,000, not even close to it. So mostly lower middle class. And so I wouldn't say, entrepreneurship, there's a point in my life where everything turned, and I'll get to that. But I always knew deep down inside, when people talk about mindset, people talk about, big vision. That's always been me. I've always done everything over the top. I've always had a big vision for things, whether it's the finer things in life, whether it's just service, whether it's myself. It's always just been kind of ingrained in my DNA, and it's, carried me thus far. So I can only imagine the next 20 years where I'll be.
Yeah, no, that's great. So when you, grew up, and I know you said you touched on the In-N-Out Burger, can you go a little more into depth there and how you kind of progressed throughout that corporation as well?
Yeah, so what's funny is, a lot of younger audience, I graduated high school right when the economy took a crap, like right in 2009, the economy took a dump. I saw my dad lose the house that I grew up in. Jobs were scarce. So I actually had a job with In-N-Out Burger. I was making, I was 16, 17, making 12, 13 bucks an hour, which was really good at that point because the dollar was so devalued at that point. Mm-hmm. Having a $12 an hour job was great. Housing was cheap and all that. So started scrubbing toilets, cleaning tables, picking food out of the mats, cleaning grease traps. I'd come home and just grease and sweat and smell like onions because I worked in fast food. And so it really set the precedent. I love where I started because I knew exactly that's not what I wanted. You have people in the service industry for 20, 30, 40 years. And I knew, even though I'm making good money, this is not what I want to do. I want to impact people. I want to impact myself. I want to challenge myself. And that was the thing, dude. I wasn't challenged at all.
Yeah.
In my job. It was just like learning the fundamentals of business operations. I obviously grew into In-N-Out and from cleaning tables to go into corporate. But that I think that came with the principle that I always was trying to challenge myself and grow as an individual.
Yeah. Totally. So how'd you make that transition though from actually, working in the In-N-Out to a corporate level, like, getting in the corporate office and that side of things?
So I got obsessed with In-N-Out Burger. Like, I was making really good money and I was young, and, this is all before 19.
Yeah.
So it was super fast. my manager came up to me and was like, you want to make $100,000 a year, you need to become a manager. And for me, I'm like, dude, my dad's only made 50 grand his whole life.
Yeah.
I want to make $100,000. And at that point, that was my goal. I've always said, I want to make 100 grand. I want to make 100 grand.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it started making $100,000. I was like, why the fuck am I so broke? Like, why am I, everyone thought this was a dream and I'm so broke making six figures. So it was a good eye opener. But I would do things more so than other people. So the owner of In-N-Out Burger, Lindsay, she would have personal charities and she'd have company charities. And everyone in the company would obviously volunteer for the company charity. It's usually a golf tournament or some sort of function that store managers, and some associates would be invited to participate in. For me, I went even deeper and was like, how do I get involved personally with Lindsay? And so I was like, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to be successful, if I'm going to make a lot of money here, I need to get connected with the people that are making decisions, that are high up, that can carry my name. Everyone talks about personal brand. In my day, it's called reputation. How do I build my name up in this organization? And that's exactly what I was doing. I was not being paid, going to personal charity events, going to any type of In-N-Out Burger function that I could bring value to, bring service to, and dedicate my time to further myself in the company. So that's how I established a name. Out of all 20,000 employees, that's how I personally established my name in this company, to then be called to go work in the corporate office for the events and marketing department.
Yeah. So how did they decide that they wanted you to be in the events and marketing department, especially since at this point, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounded like you didn't have like a developed skill set yet. You just had a lot of passion.
Yeah. So knew this much, zero about marketing, about events, about anything. I had no idea that world even existed.
Yeah.
That's how I just didn't know anything. It's because, one, I was the manager for the company, but two, I brought the development, the culture, which is more important to a company, especially like In-N-Out, than sometimes a skill set. You go into a company and they have such strong culture in their company, like In-N-Out does. They don't want to break that. And you got to think, In-N-Out has taken 70 plus years to develop the culture. And in 1 year, an individual can break that down. Yeah. So that's why I think ingraining myself in this company. I knew the operations of the store. I ran a team of 65 employees, so I had management skill, but I didn't have that marketing and sales, or marketing and events, which could be taught. And that's exactly what happened. I went in there and I was, partnered with the department head that they brought in from the outside, and she literally taught me everything that I know about events, about marketing, about a lot of things that I just didn't know. And in turn, I brought the culture, the structure, the development of what they were missing in the corporate office.
Yeah. So how long kind of was that transition for you? And was it difficult to go from, a completely new position now where you have to pick up these things, or was it like exciting to you? Were you being challenged a lot? Like, what was that like?
I would say the biggest challenge was going from 65 people to managing 22 that had all degrees, and I didn't. That was the biggest challenge.
That's very interesting.
Was working in an environment where people had degrees for specific jobs and I didn't. But here's the thing. This is what I tell, young guys getting started in the space is that's when you double down. Like, that's when you know who you are as a person, where you are in a skill set, and you apply those methods and those values and those skill sets to inspire a team. And not saying, hey, well, I was handpicked to come in here and change everything and forget your guys' degree. These guys went in debt for that. And, you have to have some level of respect for that. But I came in more so as like, I bring a different side, a different view, a more company view that we can learn from. And in return, you can teach me how you guys operate in your world. And so I would say it wasn't figuring out how events run or figuring out how marketing or figuring out communication to masses like that and organizing and logistics. It was, how do you inspire 22 individuals who have a higher education than you to then lead and manage them? And that was the hardest part.
Yeah. So when you were going about, kind of getting them to also trust you too, right? Did you kind of take that as more of a holistic approach? Like you wanted to just gain it over time in front of the whole group? Or did you kind of start to like meet with individuals and you were working on that so that way when you meet as a whole, the trust is there? You know what I mean?
It's a mixture of both.
Mm-hmm.
First off, there's no ego. Like I have zero ego.
Yeah.
There's reasons I don't come out on my Instagram and say, hey, I sold 35,000 tickets for Grant Cardone, and it only took me 6 months to do it, and it's taken Tony Robbins 30 plus years. Like that's an ego play. For me, anytime I look at a situation, I had the opportunity and the ability to be part of this massive business conference and be a key player in decision making in that part, to accomplish selling 35,000 tickets and hosting the largest business conference ever on this planet. So that's the approach I take, whether it was In-N-Out, whether it was Tom Ferry, whether it was Grant Cardone. It was always a holistic, inspirational take rather than I was brought onto this job. I don't care what you guys think. I'm above you guys. And that's where a lot of people fail, is they have so much ego.
Yeah.
I've had more business opportunities not having an ego and not having clout and just letting things go rather than saying, I deserve that business opportunity because I've done this.
Yeah. No, that's huge, especially in today's world. Like there's a lot of people who I feel like their ego slows them down because they're afraid to see, like, oh my gosh, if I like show that I failed at this, like, or I lost money or I'm not making as much as I did 3 months ago, like I'm going to be considered like a failure. You know what I mean? Even if they're already making a good amount. So just to not have that, it's like taking those breaks off. You just go a lot faster,
Oh yeah, I do. I tell people, like, not too long ago, I was 75 grand in debt. But I thought you made all this money. I did. Yeah. And guess what? I'm not in debt. And guess what? When I go back in debt, you're going to know about it.
No, that's great. That transparency is so cool too, because people have an unrealistic view, even me a lot of times, on what entrepreneurship actually is and how successful a lot of entrepreneurs actually are. And they don't see those struggles or even those times where they strategically go in debt. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I just think that's really cool that you're sharing that. So thank you for that, Chris. But going back to the marketing side of things. So you mentioned something real cool about Grant Cardone, and I kind of want to hear about that in a second, but I want to hear about how you developed that like marketing skill over, your introduction at In-N-Out Burger's corporate office. Like did you learn that through everyone who had those degrees and then trial and error, or where did you really get that like expertise, like pinnacle level of knowledge in that?
So you can learn 95% of something if you just shut up and listen. If you just shut up and just watch. A lot of people want to talk their way out of situations or into situations. You can learn so much if you just watch other people make mistakes and know that's not the route. So there's a lot of things obviously that I learned on the job, getting taught and coached and mentored, but I would just sit back and watch how In-N-Out marketed themselves going into new markets, how they built, a community around them, how they communicated to that community, how they communicated to the internal associates. And it's a mixture. It's a mixture of not only In-N-Out Burger, but also Tom Ferry, where I traveled for 10 months with Tom. We did 125 plus events. We had thousands and thousands and thousands of people attend our events. And so that's where a lot of that skill developed, that marketing and sales aspect, because I would see all the campaigns running, whether it was for a fast food restaurant, whether it's for a personal brand, whether it was for a product, whether it was selling something on stage, and the tweaks we would have to make to be more successful. And this is why I don't, you have a lot of entrepreneurs today that are, the anti-social club, the anti-9 to 5, screw a job, don't get a job.
Yeah.
I loved my job because I didn't have to learn on my dime. I didn't have to go run a marketing campaign and spend the last $15,000, $20,000 of my money to hope that it worked. I went and spent millions of dollars on other people's money and say, that didn't work. We shouldn't do that again. And so that's the biggest thing that I feel like entrepreneurs miss when partnering, when co-collaborating. Anytime you can leverage other people's money to, one, expand their brand, grow, but also see what works in the marketplace and what the market responds to, you're in a win-win situation. So, I haven't scaled a Shopify store to 6 figures or 7 figures, but I've scaled a brand to hundreds of millions of dollars, and I didn't do it with my money. So now when I start my own brand, I know exactly what steps to take, exactly how the community needs to be built and curated, and what needs to happen with me as an individual to get to that position to produce $50 million on my own brand. And I did that all for free.
Now Chris has got me real excited, guys, because here's the thing, like, that advice is honestly so true. And it's actually helped me a ton in my life, especially when I was starting out with my own marketing agency. Like, working for very little of what it's actually worth or nothing has helped me so much, guys, like, in actually learning, because that's what I was focused on. I wasn't focused on that short-term payment. I was focused on monetizing the back end, just like Chris was with the knowledge, because Exactly. If you're low on money, it's not a money problem. It's a knowledge problem. So you want to get that money, pay some dues and get it, just like Chris did, guys. But I would love for you to touch a little bit on your patience during that time too, because at that point too, there's like a point where that you could be making like more money, but like kind of that patience where you're like, okay, I can still learn more, whatever it may be.
That's where I say the entrepreneur tick kind of hit. I was working with Tom Ferry, and we were doing all this traveling. Tom's an entrepreneur. Obviously it's in real estate, so real estate agents are entrepreneurs. And I was meeting certain individuals who were making an atrocious amount of money being a realtor. And they kind of had a similar backstory with me, didn't come from much, tried real estate, was successful at it, very personable person. And they gravitated towards that. And it's not like I was like, oh, I need to be a realtor, but it was like, if I can find something that I can let my personality shine, I'm good at, and I have a passion for, then I know I can do exceedingly well. And that's kind of when everything kind of took off. I gained more trust within the company. I was traveling more. I was taking on more responsibility. I was overseeing more. So this stuff all came naturally. And even though I was more qualified than my boss at Tom Ferry, again, was never an ego play. I never said, hey, an individual awards. When I was with In-N-Out Burger, you're talking to an individual who has spent millions and millions of dollars on events and marketing and all that stuff. Going to be managed by someone who hadn't done a tenth of that, I always knew my place. Just like Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, I was the QB, they're the coach. Whatever they say to run, you run, and then you adjust as you go.
Yeah.
So I got this entrepreneur tick when I started seeing all these people make more money, and I thought I was making good money. I'm making over 6 figures at this point. My wife's making really good money, and we're doing our thing. But then I was like, I can become more successful, one, if I just bet on myself. And I've been doing it this whole time. That's all a job is. Like the most value that I've ever gotten was if a company is willing to write you $100,000 check for your value that you bring to the company, how much more value are you to yourself? And like that's what people don't understand is like companies are paying for you. So if they're willing to write $100,000 check, how much more are you actually worth?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it all kind of spiraled. And then obviously the Cardone thing took off and kind of put me in the situation where I'm at today.
Yeah. So let's jump right into the Cardone situation then. So first off, how did you get in front of Grant or any member of his team and grab his attention?
Yeah, so it was kind of a mutual thing. They had known about me. Grant wanted to expand in the events world. He didn't know how to do that. I was throwing an event in Miami. Grant came out to that event, and we met and we talked, and then we just closed the deal with his team, with his team. And it was, it was a great experience. Like, I'm forever grateful for that opportunity to come on board, be the director of global events, and, establish, Grant was already a big personality at the time, and that's not what I'm taking credit for, but establish the structure that's there now, where he's doing more events. 10X GrowthCon 3 was the biggest it's ever been, 35,000 people that paid for a ticket. And now has a bigger name and brand because of doing that.
Yeah.
And again, not a lot of people have bought out resorts around the world. Not a lot of people. There's 3 people in my world that have put a personal name on a professional stadium. This person that does that manages and produces the Super Bowl, the person that does the World Cup, and then there's me that produced the largest business conference on this earth. So it's an amazing opportunity. It was kind of just a collab of both worlds. What I was doing with Tom, it also helped. Tom and Grant were friends, so my name, obviously, people talk about this as a personal brand. It's a reputation and a skill set. I like to talk. I hate the word personal brand, but it's a skill and a reputation that you have in the industry that you're mastered in is what gets you there, not just bullshitting.
Yeah, completely. So from that whole lot of information you just gave us, I definitely extracted one point that was very interesting to me as well, which was that you guys met up in an event you threw, right? And then you ended up throwing an event. So how did you, first off, did you know he was going to come to this event? And then second off, okay, so how did you position that event specifically? Because I'm sure you had some strategies in place to really wow Grant here.
Yeah, well, it was like two or 3 weeks before the event. We had been talking, we want you to come on board. We want you to help. And also you got to remember, I was living in California, so I just couldn't hey, next day I can start on Monday. It was no, we needed a plan, and I also needed to finish out my commitments with Tom. So I had 4 other events that needed to be done, because I left Miami, went to Chicago, and then went back and went to Dallas, and then went back home to California. So there's a lot of things on my end, but you're exactly right. It was more so. This event in Miami was already occurring, and it was if you guys want to see my skill set, if you want to see the structure that's in place, if you want to see how I run things and how we operate, then it'd be great for you to come to this event. And so Grant showed up with Ryan Secco, and we talked. It's exactly what Grant wanted to do. 500-600 people in a room, and him on stage for 3 days, educating these people. So it was a perfect match. And then from there, we just closed the deal. I followed up. I said, I hope Grant enjoyed his time at the event. I actually have video of him at that event. And then we went into, how are we going to structure a deal, a salary, compensation, all that stuff.
Yeah, that's great. So what's some advice for any listeners, who may just be thinking about, the event space in the future? My listener base is a little younger, so I don't think too many of them are in it right now. But what's some advice if someone is looking to throw a great event at a small scale and then at a larger scale like you have done with Grant?
I wouldn't, like you said, you have a younger audience. It's more so I was chasing my dream. I didn't give up. My dream, even though I was making really good money. I was working, Tom Ferry's an incredible boss, an amazing individual. I always wanted more for myself. So I just happened to be in the events and marketing space that kind of leveraged me to work for Grant. But there's a lot of things that you can do to work for people like Grant or Cody Sperber or Dean Graziosi or Tony Robbins, that they need help. These guys, people think, Tony Robbins big, but he's not a sales guy. Tony's not a sales guy. Tony has 250 coaches that sell you stuff, or he has, speakers that come and sell you stuff. Tony's the act, just like a music artist gets on stage and performs, but you have the DJ that's running the beat that you like. You have the music producers, and you have the songwriters, and you have all these people that are helping support the artist. And that's where, you know, if you're young, you got to think like, you know, you're building your name, you're building your skill set, you're building yourself. Build yourself in support of those people that you admire and adore and are mentored by. And then when you get to a point where then you can do it yourself. And it takes like, you're looking at 10 years, 10, 11 years of putting my head down, getting to work and mastering my craft. And in those 10 years, I've been discouraged. I've been told that I can't. And not even just by employees or coworkers, but like family members, people that say they love me, saying, hey, you know, you've gotten this far, great job. You know, there's no need to, there's nothing more to prove. You're already successful. And it was like, no. Yeah. I'm young, I'm hungry, I want to expand, I want to grow. I'm not living my dream. And as a young person, you have time. Use that time to go after something you're passionate about. That same thing you're doing right now as a young person that pays $8, $9 an hour, when you become better and good and you master it, that same thing will pay you $1 million. I know marketing CMOs that make $80,000 a year. And a different CMO, like myself, will make $1 million plus.
Yeah.
It's time, dude. It's time and skill.
Yeah, definitely. So when you make that much money, you know, I'm sure like you and Grant had a great compensation plan worked out, but how are you able to generate, you know, 35,000 butts in seats at this event? Like, can you go into just some of the tactics you used? Was it a lot of digital marketing? You know, like what were you looking at?
A lot of digital, a lot of content, and it's not even the production of 35,000. It's one, it's time. We had 6.5 months to market an event. But two, you have to look like when you're in the event space, you're in the marketing space, how much content are you producing? Dude, we're doing 12 to 15 different pieces of content a week, changing messaging, changing the scope, changing the narrative, changing the deal, changing the sale, what's on sale now, what's not on sale. And so the problem today with young entrepreneurs is they make one video, one set of ads, one set of copy, one funnel, and they don't want to change it. And you have to understand as a marketer, you have to hit people at different times. You have people that go to events because of the parties. You have people that go to events because of the speakers, because of the content, because of the special offer that they're making at the event, something that they want. Say mentorship that you want is $5,000, but if you go to the event, it's $1,000. You people go to event because of that, because they know.
Yeah.
And so you have such generic marketing when it comes to events or even products, and you have to understand you have to hit a consumer at different points in their life to make the sale. And that's what we're doing. Hey, do you want to buy one, get one for free? Hey, do you want to meet Grant? Do you want to meet Steve Harvey? Do you want to meet Bethany Frankel? Hey, do you just want to come at a discounted price? Or do you want Cardone University? Or do you want this webinar? Or do you want this book? Or, you know, like, we're just throwing everything out there. And it's not necessarily like, hey, we're throwing shit against the wall and seeing what sticks. It's more so like we're producing content to hit people that have different value points. Someone might want more knowledge. So that's why a ticket with Cardone University is more lucrative than just a buy one, get one. Mm-hmm. But some people are just lazy, and some people just don't understand. Like, for me, I'm all about the experience. I'm going to an event because it has good speakers. There's some sort of networking party, and there's like a brunch or something. Why? Because I know I can close deals there in that setting rather than just going to a one day that's kind of one and done. Yeah. And so as a marketer, as an event producer, as a young entrepreneur who wants to get in events or host their own events, you have to curate that you're selling to 15 different individuals, and you need to write the story for each one.
No, that's great. So when you say you're testing all these ads too and whatnot for the events, like I know with digital, you can, clearly get that instant feedback, which is amazing about it. So when you get one that's, working well, do you go straight into scaling that or
100%? Mm-hmm. 100%. Email, there's an email follow-up. Say we did a buy one, get one, and it just took off.
Yeah.
Email, there's a live, There's Grant talking about it on the shows. Like you'll see certain things that Grant talks about, especially for this next growth con. And if he's talking about it, that means it's selling. So if it's get a free ticket and get Cardone University because it's selling and he wants to sell it more. Hey, buy one, get one, or get one 50% off, or I'll give you a free ticket if you buy my webinar. Something's selling and he's just pushing it forward. So yeah, we would watch all that data. And the biggest thing is making the investment. You have a lot of people that don't want to make the investment. I always hear like things like, hey, I allocated $5,000. Well, what if it took $6,000 to get you to your goal? Mm-hmm. So like, I'm not saying don't have a budget, but what I'm saying is you need to be testing tremendously and then scale what works instead of saying, hey, I'm only stuck to a number. And once you hit that number, I'm done. Because that's the moment you failed.
Yeah, no, that I know testing can get a little pricey, especially when what you're saying with all these different offers, because then you change one thing here, one thing there. I definitely get that. And that's really cool for me to hear, because that's what I like to do too with the companies I do work with. It just, like you said, it does cost a little bit of money. So I'd love for you now to kind of just pivot a little bit here and tell us about, you said you had a marketing agency now of your own and then consulting too as well. So could you, touch a little bit on those and how that came to be with you being the sole person pushing that?
Yeah. So the biggest thing that I tell people is, when you look at my life, my career, and where I'm at today, you're looking at 10 years of grinding, 10 years of experience, 10 years of, I call it wisdom. So the difference between knowledge and wisdom is knowledge is something you learn. Wisdom is something applied. So I may know knowledge of great Facebook tactics that work, but if I've tried them and they've worked, that's wisdom gained.
Yeah.
And that's rare, and that's what you want to look for. And so where I'm at today, I'm partnered in a company called Goat Marketing. Me and Diego are building out this massive agency, but it's just it's a small fraction of what we do. We speak, we educate, we mentor young entrepreneurs to not make the same mistakes that I made or that I saw other people make, and they're doing it. They're these young entrepreneurs are isolating themselves from other individuals. They have ego that is getting away in business opportunities. They're giving things away for free that shouldn't be away. There's a difference between giving value and giving and charging for something. And so me having a conversation with someone over Zoom for 15-20 minutes giving value, that's one thing. But me doing it for you, that needs to be paid for. And that's the biggest misconception today with young entrepreneurs and why they get frustrated and why they can't scale, is because they want to do everything for free and call it value given. If I'm giving you my skill set and my knowledge that I've done over the last 10, 12 years, you got to pay for that.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. You're not going to go to Coca-Cola and say, hey, you need to give me stuff for free because, I can bring value to your brand on promoting it on Instagram. Coca-Cola's be like, we produce a great product that you obviously like, and for that you need to pay us. And people do. Yeah. And that's I think that's the biggest frustration with entrepreneurs today and why they can't scale to where they want to scale, is because they keep giving their shit away for free. And stop doing that. Get on a call with someone. First off, where I'm at today is because, one, I had no ego, but two, I wanted to collab and bring value to people. And in bringing value to the people correctly, I was able to capitalize and build myself up and build other things build other companies that I'm working with as well. And so knowing the difference in that value skill set will get you a lot farther. Because once I do, let's say, Gavin, you're like, Chris, I need help with marketing. I need help with scaling a product. Yeah. And I did it for free. And then you have the next product, and then I hit you with a $25,000 fee. You're going to look at me a little funny and be like, why is it $25,000? You did it for free last time. Why can't you just charge me $2,000?
Yeah.
I've just devalued myself. I just spent the last 11 years what I was building as a skill set, devalued myself in one transaction. And then now I look like a scam artist because I'm trying to get 25 grand out of you. So I'd rather be upfront and say, hey, if you want me to guide your company on XYZ, I charge 25 grand a month. Do you want to pay it or not? And if the answer is no, then I move on. And that's the issue. People are entrepreneurs today are in such scarcity mode that they'll take any deal. I don't waver on my costs. You want to be mentored by me? $2,500 a month. It is what it is. If you don't, just watch my Instagram and you might get something from there. But the minute I do it for free for someone is the minute that I not only devalued myself, but now I've lost that stream of income. And that's why people can't scale.
Yeah, totally. So I want to put a little bit of devil's advocate here and hear your opinion on this. So say an entrepreneur's starting out, they're young, they don't have 10 years of experience under their belt of, wisdom, proven tactics. Would you recommend that person work for free for a company or whatever it is just to get that experience before they can charge? Or would that still be a situation where you think that they should charge up front?
But see, you're not working for free. Like if you're a young entrepreneur, say I didn't have this 10 years of experience and I am 18 years old and I see I can go work for Gary Vee because I live in New York, or I can go work for Tony, I can work for Dean, or even Grant.
Yeah.
You're learning inner workings of major corporations in the United States that are so valuable, or you are gaining trust from such a high status individual, you allocating a short period of your time to do things. Now, you might not get monetary money.
Yeah. You
might not get paid $1, but you're getting paid so much in value and knowledge and wisdom from other individuals. And everyone wants to talk about mindset. I see it all the time. Mindset, all this stuff. If you had the right mindset, you would take any chance right now. If Bill Gates came to me and said, hey, dude, I'll pay you $8 an hour to come work for me. Bye. See y'all later. Because I'm going to go work side by side with one of the richest people in the world and who runs one of the largest companies ever to build on this planet. How much is that worth? And that's where the ego comes in with young entrepreneurs. They want to get paid an exorbitant amount of money up front. Dude, you have no skill. You have no knowledge. You have no wisdom. You have nothing. Give your time, give your energy, learn something, and then go ask for the big bucks.
No, yeah, that's great right there. And that definitely is something it resonates well with me because it's like you have to really get that back end monetized before you can monetize the front end in a lot of transactions. So get that knowledge so you can make that money. So I'd love for you to jump into at the beginning of the episode. You talked about, that there were 7 different companies that you were partnered with. And one of them, I believe, from following you on Instagram, I see a lot about CBD and that's been in the news about lately. So I just loved for you to touch a little bit on that and why you're investing your time and money, in that space.
So it's so great because I literally just had this conversation probably about 2 hours ago. But the CBD market is growing, and if you're in a digital agency and you're listening to this, or you're young and you want to start a digital agency, the CBD market is so untapped right now with marketing tactics. There's you can buy email lists, you can do programmatic ad buying, you can do influencer marketing, billboard advertising. There's so much you can do in the CBD market. Obviously, you can't run Facebook ads and Instagram ads, all that. But see, that's the difference of knowledge and wisdom. When I look at a brand, I don't first say, hey, I'm going to run Facebook ads and it's going to win and we're going to make $1 million. Everyone's going to be happy. Mm-hmm. There's so much that goes behind marketing tactics at work that you can do. So yes, I am, partnered with Michael and Happy Tea. He's 100% owner in the company. I just help and assist where he needs me to, but we're doing a lot of big things in the space. We're the leading CBD drink in marketing. We ran the largest influencer campaign with over 500 influencers promoting Happy Tea, and then the first major celebrity to ever come out and endorse a CBD brand. So we're doing a lot of things, but again, when you go into buying into the person, I buy into Michael. Michael owns, a couple different companies. He has a big vision, he has big goals, he has big dreams, and I bring value to him by being able to execute on that stuff. So yes, I know zero about CBD and how you manufacture and how you grow and how you do this, but I have applied wisdom and tactics that I've done in the past that can help support Michael and his dreams, and that's exactly what we're doing.
That's great to hear. That's definitely great to hear. And one thing too in there is I know when you're talking about building that skill set, like one thing you do a lot for companies, even if you're not partnered with them, is, consulting. And one question I hear a lot, and I even wonder this myself sometimes, not going to lie, because I'm not a consultant. I do digital marketing. But that is like, okay, when you start as a consultant, I see some people, the first business venture they want to do is they want to be a consultant, right? So, and to me, it makes logical sense that you'd have to be an expert in something, then go into consulting. Would you agree with that, or kind of what's your position on that? And how?
Yeah, 100%. Dude, I became a consultant after 11 years of corporate America, operations, marketing, events, sales, corporate infrastructure, negotiation, budget management, budget projection, all that stuff. So it wasn't like, it's funny because I get that when I tell people I'm a consultant, I get that kind of like, oh, so you don't make any money. Because I guess everyone's a consultant to everyone. But if you want to be extremely valuable and have a company do over $1 million within their first year, and partner not just with one, but 7+ different companies and have different transactions going and different things being going, you have to have a mastered skill in that area that you want to consult. And there's things that I just turned down that I have no idea. Like, I have no idea how you scale that, no idea how you would do any of that. And I'm not just going to be the guru to gurus. I'm very precise in what I consult for and what I consult with. Sometimes it's brand building and sometimes it's revenue driven. And I think that's where consultants fail. They want to take every deal and make it revenue driven. And sometimes the brand needs to be established. I have a call with a CBD company that wants to do marketing. And I said, before you do marketing, you need to establish yourself as a brand. So take $30,000 and do a PR campaign and build the narrative around your company. That is going to generate $0 in revenue. Yeah. But what it's going to do is going to bring the valuation of the brand up. And when I apply marketing tactics to it, we're going to be able to grow and get investor funding and all this great stuff that, that needs to happen for the company to sustain itself. Mm-hmm. And that's what a lot of consultants miss is they want to do guaranteed results. When someone offers you guaranteed results is because they're not confident in themselves to actually deliver.
Yeah, no, that's big. And one thing you said that interested me too, that I haven't heard a lot, and I'm in the marketing space, is investing before you go into like Facebook ads, Instagram ads, whatever, investing in brand equity and building your brand. So I know you said you launched, like a PR campaign that may cost, clearly it varies, but like $30,000. So what are some of the things that you're looking to do in that campaign that you want to hit on? Are you looking for like media, like on, TV, or what are you looking for?
Yeah, I'm looking to establish the brand as a leading authority, especially in the CBD space. So high-level PR articles written. Mm-hmm. So, whether it's in the New York Times, whether it's in Forbes, whether it's in People or Weekly Magazine, I'm looking to do, more of the liberal areas of the country. So New York City, LA, Seattle, where we can do billboard displays, or we do email blasts. You can rent spots on other emails and blast out content to there. So I'm trying to gain an audience. I'm trying to build a name behind a sustainable brand. And then I go into what can we do with Instagram and what can we do with Facebook? Because the products and companies that scale on Facebook and Instagram is because they've built the top of the funnel so big and have such a cold audience that was funneled down to warm them up. All the Facebook ads are doing are just asking for a sale. Yeah. And that's marketing done correctly, rather than let me spend $10,000 to a cold audience who's never heard about you, try to warm them up, and then spend $25,000 on trying to get them to a sale. That's why a lot of companies fail.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And that's so cool to me because it's a very smart way to think about it. And it reminds me too, when you go to the checkout or whatever, and it's like as featured on X, Y, and Z, that does like, because we are like so convenience driven and we don't want to actually have to do research to find out if this is like legitimate or whatever compared to other products. So just seeing that already, we're like, oh, this is good. Like I like it. I know it. Now I trust them, I guess. You know what I mean? So that's very smart. I really enjoyed you sharing that with us. And one thing you said in there too is, filling a funnel, which I kind of want to hit two spots on that, filling a funnel for a business, right? And then also one thing I noticed you mentioned earlier is you even filled your funnel in your own like consulting business. So that way you could kind of like choose what you wanted and you didn't have a scarcity mindset. Because a lot of times I feel like entrepreneurs have that scarcity mindset because they just have one drop in their funnel and they're like, here it is. I don't want it to go. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. But this also goes into relationship management and relationship investing. And so there are certain things that I do to invest into a relationship, invest into a business, because I know there's a payout somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
And so you're exactly right. You have a lot of entrepreneurs that don't do that. So when the first deal comes, they want to transact right away. Hey, it's $10,000. And my biggest thing is like, why? Why is it $10,000? And that's just a service. And it's like, you fail simply in the sales process, but it just shows you the level of investment that they don't have into the business or into the relationship. Because here's the thing, when someone comes to me and I say, hey, it's $25,000 for me to consult for your company, and I have seven companies doing that right now, and they say, why? I said, because my time is valuable. I have 7 other companies who pay that me monthly. So if you want to do the deal, great. And I'll allocate time a week for you and we can set things up, get SLPs going, we'll do all that stuff. But if you don't, I need to move on.
Yeah.
So I know my why.
Yeah.
These other guys have no idea. And the fact that they can't even turn to say, because I have other companies doing it, means their sales funnel is non-existent at that point. And they're just trying to grab whatever they can at the moment and transact. And I know people that do that right now, and I just look at them and say, dude, what are you doing? Like, why are you trying to grab every deal? I know people that are doing social media management, engagement, and growth who have no idea what they're doing. And I look at them, first off, I look at them and say, you don't know what you're doing. And I inform their client because what they're doing is unethical. So if you're an entrepreneur, this is where skill set is important. If you're a young entrepreneur, get a freaking skill. Learn something now, then leverage the power of the internet to go out there and transact.
I love that. That was great. So when you're talking about building a valuable skill too, as a young entrepreneur, and here's something for me right now, my valuable skill, one of them, right, is digital marketing. However, I'm self-aware and I realize that Facebook ads aren't going to be, the gold mine that they are right now in 2 years even, right?
Exactly.
So how do you build, a skill as a young person and know that this is the skill you want to invest in at that young age, looking forward to the future?
Quite simply, you need to try a lot of things. You just need to go out there and you can try a lot of things. Just like dating. You don't go get one girl and say, this is it, this is it. With girls and guys, you try a lot of different things to figure out who's the one. And you might go through 3, you might go through 2, you might go through 16. But you have to try a lot of things to figure it out. So as a young entrepreneur, you might think marketing's sexy. Marketing's only sexy because you can digitize it now. Marketing 5-10 years ago, when the internet was non-existent and you couldn't do these things on Facebook and Instagram, being a marketer in a company means you were a waste of time. Like, you were just there because the company needed to spend money and not get hit with taxes. People are so intrigued with marketing now because you can get an instant result. You can spend $100 and get paid out $300 instantly. So what you were able to do 5-10 years ago that took 6 months to curate a message and cultivate a community and an audience, you can now do immediately, which is the hype over influencer marketing. So as a young entrepreneur, you need to try different things. Try sales. I know a lot of young guys that go into sales and they crush it because they're personable and they can talk to people and they understand and it comes easy to them. Try digital marketing. Try being a high-powered an executive assistant. There's executive assistants that make $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. But here's the difference. When you're an executive assistant to someone so high-powered, you know the inner workings of everything that happens in that company. You become just as valuable to that company, just like the COO. You know how, you know who the vendors are, you know where the transactions are occurring, you know how they're occurring, you know the sales process, you know the marketing process, you know which result incurs what, because you're managing it all. And that's what I tell people, like when like you always hear stories about, you know, millionaires coming out of McDonald's. Like this person worked at McDonald's and now they're a millionaire. That person looked at that opportunity and saw McDonald's as a global brand. They are in every freaking country. They're in every airport. They're in every cruise line. They're all around the world. And they run their operations out of a small town somewhere in the United States. How do they do it? Yeah. And they start seeing how they get their deliveries, how they do their profit and losses, how they do their marketing, how they run the operations of a store, how they lead a team, how they develop a team, how they develop managers. These are operations of a company. These are all what COOs get paid to do and know. So if you take that opportunity at McDonald's and look at that and apply and try to learn everything you can and the secrets about that organization, they're a global company. Yeah. You'll be more successful in that area than someone with a degree. And that's exactly what I did. I took a multi-billion-dollar company, saw exactly how they ran everything, who the power players were, how they transacted, how they managed, and I applied that to my business, and I fucking won.
No, I love it. That just a passion coming through, you know. No, that's great, and no, that's just so cool to me. You know, so. What do you think, though, is like a good way to look at a skill, right? Like clearly management's a great skill to develop. Of course, if you like it, you're into it, you're good at it. Looking for the future, though, because I see a lot of people kind of, you know, more so in my peer group that they think they're developing like a skill towards the future, like Facebook ads. But like, how do you know, like, okay, this is a skill that's going to be transparent throughout the next decade, 2 decades, lifetime, you know, whatever it may be? So first off, everyone needs to stop looking at Instagram and Facebook like it's God's gift to the world. Facebook and Instagram are traffic sources. If you break down marketing strategies, people started marketing on newspaper. Why? Because that's where all the eyes were in the 40s and in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Mm-hmm. Then radio. Why? Because everyone started listening to this new technology and concept, and companies were like, we can grab their attention through radio. Then TV. Why? Same concept as radio. That's where the eyeballs are. Then you had out-home display, billboard advertising, because that was the new coolest thing. We're in the era of digital marketing because Facebook and Instagram are so big, and there's 1 billion plus people on those platforms. That's where all the eyeballs are. So it's not necessarily getting good at Facebook ads and Instagram ads. It's understanding the traffic sources that are at hand, because Facebook and Instagram will go away. And we're seeing that now. The only people on Facebook are an older generation. Instagram is changing so much between algorithms, hiding likes, hiding views, all the stuff that are valuable to companies. People will move to a different platform. People are already moved to TikTok. TikTok will have its run. Then the next thing will come out. Then the next thing. Look at MySpace. Everyone thought MySpace was the next big thing, and now it's dead. Facebook was the next big thing, and now it's dead. Instagram was the next big thing. So people need to understand that it's not looking at Instagram and saying, I need to master Instagram. I need to master the area where you can drive the most traffic to and understand how to do that. And so if they do that, then they'll become adaptable to every scenario that comes down the line or every platform that's new. No, yeah, that's huge, that adaptability. And that's also something that I've thought about before too, just in the digital space. So I like that. And now we're wrapping up the show. You know, I'm very grateful for everything you've been saying. I just got a few more questions I like to ask my guest. And the first one is just, what is some advice? And I know you've touched on some of this before, but just some advice you hear often that you think is bad and, you know, toxic for a lot of entrepreneurs?
Instant gratification, saying that you've deserved it and you own it. I saw a young entrepreneur post the other day that's saying, you know, he deserves this because he's worked hard. If you've grinded for 1 year straight, you're nowhere fucking near working hard. You have to grind and grind and grind and grind till it tears everything in your life apart, and then you rebuild. Because you got to think, like, entrepreneurship is obviously a big mindset game. It's a skill game. It's a relationship game. And to get into that mindset, not only do you have to break yourself down and get into the right mindset and become a new person, but you're breaking down every aspect of your life. Relationships, friendships, habits are all ripping apart. And at the end, you're left with nothing. And then you rebuild on top of that, and you then scale up to a new person. You get, you know, bigger relationships, getting those higher status as an individual. And it's happened to me over and over and over again. You know, I get to an area of my life, I make new friends. Get to a new area of my life, I make new friends. I think we're in an age of instant gratification. I've had, in the beginning of the year, I've had big checks written to me. I don't own a Rolex. I don't drive a Lambo. I don't live in a penthouse. I don't take private jets. There's things in my life that I do. I go to nice steakhouses. I fly business class. I stay in, you know, Marriott or higher tiered resorts when I travel. But right now, entrepreneurs are saying, hey, you need instant gratification to keep you going. And that is complete bullshit. You don't need the Lambo. You don't need the Rolex. And to think you need the Rolex to get into that certain room, to have that certain conversation with that certain individual is completely bullshit. I've had conversations with billionaires. I'm friends with billionaires. Everyone says your net worth is your net worth. My net worth is over $25 billion because of who I know. And I still don't own a Rolex or a Lambo or any of those fancy shit. You don't need that stuff at all. Take that money and invest it into yourself, and it'll pay out a hell of a lot more than a Rolex or a Lambo.
Yeah, that's so true. And especially depending on your goals, if you have some real ambitious plan down the line, you got to start planting those seeds and investing early as you can, really. So that's definitely real good advice. And it's also interesting to me that you brought up the thing about the Rolex and not having to have one to talk to billionaires, just because even like, I like to think my mindset, you know, I'm always developing it, never shutting off. But even at that, like, until you said that, I was thinking, like, if I'm going to talk to a billionaire, like, you know, I'm going to want to be looking, you know, like with some expensive clothes. But that's very cool that you brought that up. So the last point I have here is, you know, even with all the success you've had as an entrepreneur and, you know, in your business, personal life, there's always things that we can improve upon as, you know, business people and people in general. So either related to your life or business, what is one thing that, you know, you're looking to change in your life right now for the better?
I think for me, it's one, it's investing more into myself so I can become more resourceful to younger entrepreneurs. So, you know, I charge so much because there's a lot of things that money pays for. Yeah. And so it's hard for me to take a client in that's lower than that amount of money, because I have higher price clients that do that. So for me, I'm in a phase of myself where I made a lot of money and I need to, you know, have diversification. So I can offer either free or lower tiered services to impact individuals, because I know I was a young individual. I was 18 at one point. I was 17 at one point, and I didn't have 25 grand to spend, or I didn't have $1,000 to spend. And I think people that are in those situations need the most inspiration and the most guidance, especially from all the jazz that's online and all the fakeness and the selling of just crap online. Everyone's coming up with a new course or this or that. And it's just, some of it's helpful and some of it's not helpful. And so for me, I took 2019 as a year to build myself up, get me in a position. So in 2020, like, I don't charge to travel to events. I don't have them cover my hotel or flights. I don't do any of that because I want to be in the room with the 18-year-old Chris Delgado and tell them, hey, this is what you should be doing in your life. This is what you should be focusing on. And knowing I don't have things that rely on me transacting. And not saying that I'm at that point, but I'm at the point in my life and my career where I need to, have some diversification. So if things do go south, because things will go south, people have success and failures. I guarantee you, in 5 years, we'll be at a completely different thing. I might have made a lot of money and lost a lot of money. Look at Jordan Belfort. He made a lot of money and he fucking lost a lot of money. And now he's back on the rise. And so I want to get to a point where I'm like people like Andy Dane Carter, where I can have sustainable diversification out there in the world and just continue to bring knowledge and applied wisdom to young entrepreneurs, because I was there at one point and I wish someone did that for me.
Yeah, well, I definitely appreciate what you've done for me and everyone listening on this podcast. So definitely doing your job today, that is for sure. So I would love if you could tell, all our listeners, where to follow up with you at and how to potentially even get in contact with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very active on Instagram. So just hit my DM at Mr. That's Mr. Chris Delgado, ChrisDelgado. At Mr. Chris Delgado. If you follow a lot of other people in the space like Dan Fleischman or at Hustler, Joe Vargas, all these guys, they all follow me. So you can find me there on the search, or you can find me if you follow those guys as well. And yeah, just hit my DM. And then I don't know how long you publish this, but usually for the first 2 weeks after you publish this, I'm always willing to get on a 30-minute or an hour Zoom call with any individual who needs help in life and their business. Again, I grew up poor, and I've made a lot of money in my time. So I've had both spectrums of the world. I don't have $20 million in the bank, but if I'm a betting man, I will one day.
No, I love that very much, Chris. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me, man.
And that is a wrap. Thank you so much for tuning into today's show and taking one step closer to becoming that future millionaire. All I'm asking from you guys is that you please take the short amount of time to review this episode. And once you do that, take a screenshot, send it to me on my Instagram, which is Gavin Lero with a period in the middle. And I will be sure to repost that in my Instagram story, give you guys a shout out. Or if you post something about the podcast in your Instagram story, I will be sure to repost that, and there's a little something extra to that I think you guys will like that will be attached to my response to you in the DMs. So look forward to that. All you have to do if you're on iTunes podcast app is you just have to pull up the current episode you're listening to. You hit the purple Future Millionaires underneath the title of that episode. You scroll all the way down to the bottom past all the other episodes. Then you hit write a review, which is underneath, the 5 stars, the visual 5 stars, and you give it a title, a quick description, however amount of stars you think it's worth. Of course, I preferably would love 5. And then you hit send, and all you have to do after that is just know that I am very thankful, guys. I really believe that this is a very powerful education tool for your growth, and I want you to succeed. So please also reach out to me on Instagram, which is Gavin.Lera, and I will be sure to answer any questions that you may have, or any ideas you want to bounce off me. I love to hear them. I love entrepreneurship, helping other people. So let's all succeed together, and you have an amazing day.